everyone. You are watching Kaushal BaatCheet. Welcome to the 8th episode of our first series, How Asking Questions Rightly Matters. Today, we have another magnetic personality as our special guest for you, who is a futurist, educator, and enabler. With diversified experiences in education sector for the last 30 to 35 years, he believes that the greatest challenge our country is facing right now is how to make the benefits from our demographic dividend, isn't it? And you know what? He's really a very curious person and have a very soft corner inside his heart towards the development of children, and has lot of things inside his brain to share with you to make you future ready for the next India. He is Mr. Arka Bhattacharya, the futurist, enabler, and educator. So, hope this episode will help you a lot about understanding the importance of asking questions and building a habit around that. Okay, so let's welcome Mr. Arka. So, welcome Arkaji, welcome to the Kaushal BaatCheet. In this episode, we will discuss about how asking questions really matters for a student. Okay, so hopefully this episode will help a lot about our students to understand that meaning, and it will help them to build something great, to build something habit about that. Okay, so
yeah, fingers crossed. That's a big one. So yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, go ahead, shoot. Waiting for the question.
Proceeding deep dive into the discussion, I would like to know about your childhood with respect to inquisitiveness. So, can you please tell us a little bit about your childhood with respect to that?
I'll try and keep it a little brief. I had schooling that was split between two cities, Chennai and Bombay.
Yeah.
And they're very different cities in many ways and many respects. Yeah. But the most important thing that hit me is they are two different language centers. Bombay is the language center of English and Bambaiya, not even Hindi, very specific, and little Marathi. Chennai is the home of Tamil and English. You know, those are the two languages they do it. And Bombay English and Chennai English are very good, but different Englishes. So, you know, it was very multilingual for me. And Tamil, so, you know, that is the first thing. I mean, I was in Bombay schooling, early schooling till the first standard, and then second standard. So when I'm 6 or 7 years old, the shift happened to Chennai, and then, you know, it flip-flopped. 3 years Chennai, Bombay, like that. It just kept happening until my engineering, which happened in Pune. So, you know, yeah. So if you ask me in a short span, briefest thing, I would say that, you know, it was largely multilingual, and therefore, you know, the questions and the inquisitiveness became very polyglot. You know, I would be curious from a Bengali perspective as to why Tamils do things this way. From a Bombay perspective, why Chennai guys do things this way. From a Chennai perspective in Bombay, why do Bombay guys do these things? So, you know, that definitely defined. I mean, there were so many questions in my head at that time. And I think that's what you are at a young age, you know, just bursting with questions. So, yeah, I guess.
Nice.
I don't know if that answers it, but yeah, I had a very stimulating childhood.
Yeah. So whenever you are going to you are shifted to college. Okay, that is in Pune. Okay, so at that time, means how was the level of your inquisitiveness about theory, about the engineering?
It was. I think it was near its peak at that time. You know, first year, I think it was just you're relaxed into the fact that you got into engineering college. You know, I think in 11th, 12th is when I think my inquisitiveness reached a peak, and then it hit that plateau where, you know, you're giving 12th, you're giving this board, you're giving that exam, and then suddenly, you know, you're at a peak level. You know, you've hit that peak where, you know many times over, and you really know it well. But do you know it well enough to get into the best colleges? And it turns out I didn't. So, you know, I just missed out on JEE and some of the top colleges, and then got into a very good college. And when you settled in first year of engineering, now you're just relaxed. You lose again. Okay. And then it hits you, you know, and in College of Engineering, we had a very good quiz club. So I remember going to boat clubs in the first year, a few weekends, just catching, you know, that this is a good way of spending weekends. And then in second year, I just became very heavily into quizzing and things like that. So, you know, that's how my inquisitiveness actually if it wasn't for that college environment, and particularly the boat club, quiz club, it might have, kind of plateaued out, but it just took off again because of that, and that was good fun. Yeah, I think my 4 years of engineering were full of questions, inquisitiveness, and a lot of general curiosity. So yeah, it was good fun.
Nice, nice. So after completing your engineering means, what are the scenario that you have experienced?
So in our times, getting into Infosys or TCS or some of the IT companies was a big deal. Engineers wanted to get it there, and they used to hire. In our times, they wouldn't come for very large numbers. I remember at our college, I think they selected about 30, 35 people from our batch.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe about a slightly higher number from our senior batch. But our seniors sat out a year. That's the 2002 batch. They sat out a year where offers went back, and they hired slightly smaller numbers from our batch, but our batch never saw a layoff. I mean, they weren't asked to wait for a year. And some of our seniors rejoined back in Infosys, TCS, and the likes, especially Infosys, which had that break year. And even today, this is another tragedy, but that's a separate discussion. I won't go there. Since we're talking about inquisitiveness, I won't play around. But I think what happened was that during the exit years of my engineering, we were hoping to make it there, and my problem solving and general inquisitiveness actually did me well, and I had good communication skills as a result. I did well, but I don't know why in Infosys I didn't get selected. Maybe there were a lot of good candidates and they picked the top 30, 35, and I just missed out. Yeah. But I was in the hunt and I went to the very final rounds, and I don't know why I missed out by choice, design, or whatever it was, but it was, I think, the first of the big ones that came. And I think maybe the second, and TCS was gone and Infosys was gone. And now it was either Cogni or, you go for core. And it just so happened by chance that, I think Cogni came and I won that day. I was out of the college for some competition or something. I came to know later, placements in those days weren't serious affairs that much. You came to know later. Nowadays, if something like that happened, I would probably have, complained to the college. I'm talking about in private colleges, you'd go to someone, complain someone, and someone would lose a job or somebody would answer for that. But there was no such accountability in our times. And forget accountability in a private setup. This is Government College of Engineering, Pune. We've been around for 150 years. Yeah. There, if anyone tries to threaten a faculty member to do anything, including placements, he'll say, okay, fine, you do the placements. We'll see how it happens. And everything is going fine. So you don't want to upset anyone. Okay. Yeah. Everyone is that important in CIP and not important. Doing very good work or not doing work, whatever you want to call it, is up to you. And these are all the things that you are steeped in, right? And you know all the constraints. So it just so happened that I missed one of the big ones. And then when I came back, there's only one left. And I hear that we are waiting for a core metallurgy and welding job or something like that to come for the department. The core jobs are typically automobile companies. So they do have roles, specialist roles for metal treatment and heat treatment, and metallurgist special roles within the automotive thing. And so they hire one or two every 1 or 2 years, and we had strong departmental linkages with all the top auto majors. So that was the top job typically in metallurgy, except if you went into core metallurgy, which for us at that time was something slightly new. We were just, the department was flirting with metallurgy and material science. So powder metallurgy, then welding, surface treatment, those things were coming in. And now, of course, the department has become a metallurgy and material sciences department. In our times, it used to be just BE metallurgy. So it's a good department. And Hoganas was supposed to be one of the good ones in core metallurgy. And ESAB, which was a welding major, they were. So ESAB happened and I made it through to ESAB. So that is how placements hit. And I think had I sat for Cognizant, I might have made it. Infosys, I might have just missed. And I think, I think inquisitiveness and curiosity has its role. I always feel, and this is something personal I'll share, not bragging or anything, aware of how lucky I am to have this. I feel that when I'm in an exam hall and it's an easy paper, I'm in real bad shape, because anyone who's prepared more than me, which is everyone, is better off than me. Exactly. But if it's a very tough paper and people are struggling because they haven't read it, now you're in my territory. There I am very, very confident that I will do enough to save my shame, pass, and who knows what. And I'll recount a small incident that happened to me in school in Hindu in Chennai.
Okay.
which is, I think, in the third or fourth standard. So when I came in second, and Chennai is very ultra competitive academically from get-go. From your womb, you're taught that competitiveness. So, in my second standard, people are asking me, what was your rank in first standard in your school in Bombay? Among the first conversations I've had with my neighbor classmates.
Okay.
This is my schoolmate. One of the first conversations that I had in Chennai on the first day of school was a neighbor turning to me and asking me, "Oh, Perana," which is in Tamil, what's your name?
Okay.
And I didn't get it. So I looked at her, and so she realized this person doesn't know Tamil. And so she said in very heavily accented Hindi, "Tumhara naam kya hai?"
Okay.
And I still didn't catch it. It was so alien, that accent, that I didn't catch it, that, "Tumhara naam kya hai" means what is your name? So I was just trying to put together that strange sound. Then it clicked. So I said, my name is Arka in English. And then immediately, since I caught that "Wo Perenna" is what is your name in Tamil, I asked "Wo Perenna," and she's like, "Oh, you know Tamil. So why didn't you answer?" So this is the first conversation. And something like this. And a few minutes later in the day, I am asked what was my rank in first standard in Bombay. So that is my first culture shock. That in Chennai, your rank in Bombay, even in your 10th standard, your classmates are probably aware to 70% laega, fail hoga, kya nahi. But Hindu is the school that I gave my 12th from. I'm lucky I didn't give my 10th from there. I would have really had severe depression, I feel. But in 12th, in my batch, I remember in 99, 2000, both years, in our junior batch, in 99 batch, I think the All India topper was not from our school, but second rank was all CBSE.
Okay.
And in a batch of, in 99, in a batch of about, I think, 128 students split into two, 80 science and 48 commerce. Out of 108 or 118 students, I think maybe about 10 of them would have got less than 80%. And the lowest was probably something like 70 to 73. That is the laggard in the batch, bottom. But at the top, I remember that in 99, I was third in my school, with 93 in CBSE, which was very good. But number 2 was 95 and number 1 was 96. And in our year, he wasn't number 1 or, I think he was All India number 2, something like that. Very good results, stellar results of the batch. And I mentioned that there were 10 below 80, but there may be another 10 above 80 and 90. And almost 198 people are all above 90% in the batch. So that was a very ultra competitive school academically that you stepped into. It's just like launching from a very easy kind of place in Bombay academically, but Bombay has its own vibrancy. So, you can match the vibration. It teaches you a lot in other ways, but in academically, the focus is not. And then you land into something which is like catches you. Are you number 1 in your last school? Is the first question I'm asked on day 1 of my school by my classmates, not by any teacher or my parent or their parents. No. The students are asking, are you going to be competition? And so the incident that I am drawn to is, so I was always in the top 5, top 10. So, I was identified as someone you can go to for inputs, but he's not the topper. He's not competition. That is actually, I'm being bracketed like that. I have some pull, but I'm not really in the radar of everyone. So in 4th standard, our principal, Dr. Venkatachalam, V. Venkatachalam, is a botanist by training, he's a PhD, and also a very eminent education psychologist and someone whom I really, really respect. I mean, he's definitely my guru and my guru's gurus, because the teachers in Hindu are all his, proteges and mentees. But so he used to do this once in a while is, he would just, take over one subject teacher's exam setting roles once in a while for junior classes. So I think once in the 4th standard for general science, he set the paper. And the way it would happen in our school, or at least my memory of that exam, is we went in and we're just about to start the paper when the ma'am comes in and says, guys, I have a small announcement. Once in a while, our principal sets the paper. This is that paper. So I'll let him come and speak to you for a few minutes. And it's a slightly different paper. Don't get scared. It's just something part of the plan. So, just take it as you would any paper, and whatever else you need to know, he'll tell you. So he would address that, look, this is going to be very easy paper. But it may not really reference what has been discussed in the classes. Just treat it as, conversational questions that, if I met you and I asked you some questions on the way, like that, those
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
questions.
yeah.
So when the papers distributed, apparently I just started solving it, and I was done a little early. So I used to normally give it and go away. That's how you do it as a kid. You go to the playground and you have a few friends who finish exams early, and we're done having our good time, and we're already playing for about half an hour when the exam ends, and you come running to meet the guys who are coming out and all that. It's exam
Yeah,
is over and all those things.
yeah.
And that was the last exam. So, we were waiting for it to finish, right? So, and that's how it happened. So when he come out, everyone is like, "Arey, it was a very tough paper. It was a very tough paper." And I was genuinely surprised because it was an easier paper for me. And I finished it early and I came out. I was the first. Normally, I'm second or third to finish an exam. I'm a quick finisher.
Okay.
But on that day, I was first. And it's my rule since that day never to submit first. Now, this is a rule which is a personal discipline that happened, that never submit the paper first.
Okay.
Never submit the paper first. And why, I'll tell you. Because when the results came, normally, in science papers, you will get 90s easily as topper, and then it goes down, and 70s is probably where it ends. Even in those young, small classes in Chennai, it's like that. That's the level of academics. But in this paper, the topper, he announced it slowly until he had the last three, and then number 3 was 67. And I was like, this is embarrassing. And then, there are only 2 papers left. So there are the 2 toppers and the others who failed now left in the class. And then the second one comes out with 71. And I'm like, I'm gone. I'm failing. I cannot have been the highest in the class, and I certainly am now one of the failures. And then he announced that the top mark is 78 and Arka has got it.
Oh.
And I was like, really? I topped in this paper. Had I just sat around for another half an hour, I might have got even more. So since then, I never submit in an exam hall. I'll be the second to leave if I'm comfortable, or the last to leave if I'm not comfortable. No rush to exit. But whatever I am, I'll quickly finish and I'll move out if I'm done. I won't waste time there. That's how I take exams. So that's just a recollection. I don't know from where that came. Sorry for digressing. But yeah, that was one of the defining experiences in my life that told me that when an exam actually gets slightly different or unexpected, that's usually when I can shine.
Yeah.
And I have one experience from much later in my life where during when I was doing the GMAT, this is during the years when I got into IIFT in 2006, around the time when I'm doing the GMAT in those days. Now it takes, I guess, CAT or whatever. But in those days, they used to take GMAT exam separately, and IIT Bombay was my exam venue. And something about my hall card needed some stamp or something which was supposed to be done beforehand, the previous day or at least an hour in advance, and I hadn't done it. And when I reached the exam hall and I'm thinking I will start in the next 5 minutes, the invigilator tells me this won't work. Go get this stamp and come. I'm like, I have to go to the main building in IIT Bombay, and that is at least a 15-minute walk. He said, go out. You can be back in 5 minutes. I said, I know I can't be. I don't have a vehicle. I have to walk. He said, go out. It won't take that much time. Just don't waste time here arguing with me. So I stepped out, and there are a lot of running traffic. You hail anyone, they help you. So I was there in a minute. It didn't take too much time, but it still took 10 minutes to come back. You have to wait there for a few seconds. I mean, it happened quickly. There was not much of a delay. But now I come back, it's 10 minutes. And by the time I enter the hall again, I have to climb up to second floor. By the time I'm back again at the hall, 20 minutes have gone. And the GMAT started stroke as I'm leaving to get this thing done.
Wow.
So I lost 20 minutes of the exam. So I just sat in my place. I snapped and I said, look, this is very crucial. You have to do well in this exam. So you already lost 20 minutes. Let's assume you've lost 30. Don't start the paper. Just relax for 5 minutes and look at the paper for 5 minutes and then start. And it's a crucial paper, so I sure didn't take 5 minutes to relax. A minute and I was done relaxing how much ever I wanted to. I spent 9 minutes just going through the paper, and about with 1 minute to go for that half an hour to kick in, I just said, boss, hold your breath, wait a minute, then go all out.
Yeah.
And on that day, I am proud of myself. I was the last guy to leave the hall. There was one other guy who was struggling for time, and I was struggling for time. Yeah, so I just looked at him, and then I looked at the time and I realized it's overtime, and I decided, I'll submit it. And I just called the invigilator, gave him my paper. He looked at me, he looked at the watch, and he was just pretty happy that it wrapped up with 2 minutes overtime or whatever. And I guess he was waiting. I guess he was going to give him a few more seconds to the other guy. Okay. And as I step out, I'm just thinking that not bad. Half an hour that you missed out, not bad. I'll take this attempt. Had you started on time, I don't think it might have been better than this. And I'm coming out. And it turns out I don't remember what rank I got, whether I got GMAT rank 7 or 23, but it was definitely under 30 because my percentile was 99.87 or 97, something like that.
Great, great. Because that kind of fitness,
And I come out and the discussion is the maths is tough, the English is tough, the logic is tough. I just never felt it.
wow,
I was just relaxed. I never felt it.
great. Because that kind of proactiveness is rare. Okay, whenever you are going to in the exam hall where 20 minutes have been already gone. Okay, so that balance of mind and that kind of proactiveness is really, really rare. Okay, because something
See,
similar
I honestly am telling you that in all humility, I recognize that this is something that I don't know if I've inherited it or it is the stories in our family. But there are legends in our family of our grandparents on my father's side and his mother's side
okay.
of people who used to top university exams despite odds and things like that. So it is somewhere in your thing that it's not a perfect day that the topper will come from.
Mhm.
Everything is going wrong in your life and still you top.
Yeah.
That happens. You need a little luck and you need to be that good. If you are that good, then luck will find itself. Not every day. When things are going wrong, once in a while you'll come second, third, or not even be in the top rankers. But on the day everything goes right, even
Yeah.
with a little bit going wrong, you can top. And those are the stories that kind of make you, at least in my personal case, those are some of the stories that were very fresh in my mind. Whenever I give exams, those stories they are very exam oriented, conditioning in my family. So
Yeah.
these stories are always said before exams, just to pep you up when you think that you're gone. So in that way, it was a very interesting
Getting.
family background also to grow up in, where but then the flip side is, suppose you actually do not that great, then there's a huge pressure and a question mark saying that,
Definitely.
oh, you came second. No one is impressed with second here. But
Hmm.
it was never that brutal in my family. If you came home and bragged that, do you know I came third in class? They'll be like, oh, brothers, just pipe down a little. Never seen second rank in my life, and I studied harder than you. So don't talk until you have worked hard enough, come first. But if you don't brag about it and you come and say, I'm very sad I got third, there will be a gentle helping hand also saying that it's okay. Sometimes you come third, sometimes you come second, sometimes you come first, sometimes you don't come third also. It
Nice.
depends on how it was, so that way, because in my family, at least, it's many generations of actual professors and all that. So
Hmm.
yeah, they've dealt with a lot of students, I guess, and so those kind of things, that support structure and the freedom to be inquisitive was very high. And I had the privilege actually of being as a kid. We used to go pretty often to my grandparents' place in Pune, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but he was a physics professor. He used to teach physics at NDA Kadakwasla. He retired as the vice principal of NDA Kadakwasla as the acting principal. And then my grandmother was a professor of philosophy
Okay.
and a language translator and a Bengali poet
Hmm.
and a topper of Calcutta University in BA and MA
Nice.
and a PhD from I think I'm not sure if it's IIT Kharagpur or Ferguson College, and taught at IIT Kharagpur before coming to teach at Ferguson and Wadia. So very renowned professors with great, and their library was fun. It was like it was a large hall, larger than this, and it was all walls
Home.
books from floor to ceiling.
In your
It was a
home.
proper library.
Okay.
Their living room was actually a library.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and that library was very neatly divided. So if you take like dead center of the room, you draw a vertical line dividing it into two rectangles. All the books on one side are my grandfather's and the other side are my grandmother's.
Okay.
And this side, my grandfather's books are all medicine and physics, biology, physics, and mathematics, and a lot of Bengali books this side, which I'm ashamed to say that I'm illiterate enough in Bengali not to have read them, until much later in life. But except for the Bengali books in that, I have read that entire library many times over the so many years that I during my engineering first year, I stayed there entirely for 1 year. So that was when I read that entire library twice, and that was the best reading I ever did in my life. And
Wow.
that time I was very fast I was very, very quick in my reading. I would be done with a biggish book in about a day or so, day or two tops.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah,
So
yeah.
definitely. So Arkaji, I think that you have experienced in Chennai the competition scenario. Okay. So what do you think about that? Is competition a barrier to questioning, or is it
No, no, no. I think without good competition, you'll never reach certain levels, But I just think that competition should be treated as competition. It's not everything.
okay?
Any competition is competition. It's not everything. If your entire existence is that you're a competitor in one race, then I think you've got it wrong. Then you've got life wrong. That is my quick observation. And that I learned from Bombay.
Yeah, yeah,
That I learned from Bombay, But see, that's generally how people are. But everywhere you will have extremes, and there are suicides in IIT Bombay also. So it's not as if Bombay doesn't have its high pressure environments. And there are suicides in IIM Bangalore also and IIT Chennai also. So, and these are people who, why should they feel stressed? They have arrived, right? They've done good enough. Why should they feel pressure? I mean, one can understand if it is someone from some normal engineering college with not enough prospects. One can understand, even if this person has failed here, let him repeat and finish his IIT degree. What is his trouble in life? One doesn't understand that. One doesn't understand a suicide in an IIM Bangalore, or one doesn't understand a suicide in an AIMS in Delhi. One doesn't understand these things.
yeah,
But then it gets down to, your personal circumstances, maybe your personal family pressures, maybe the particular pressures that your peers and your friends and or your life partners are putting on you.
yeah.
So, that is a broader question. But anyway, I didn't mean to take it to such a macabre level, but it just went there. Sorry.
So questioning is really a very fundamental aspect of life. Okay. Whenever we have some kind of desire to know something. Okay. First thing that we do is questioning. Okay. Because this is the one kind of, we can say, simply fundamental. Okay. So how questioning helps you in your professional life currently?
Massively, but let me first just at the outset say that there are two people who have influenced my thought process, my language, the way I observe things more than anyone else. And these are people I don't know, but whom I've read, and who whatever they have written, stated, and or whatever I've seen is so fundamentally true. It is just simple truth in the way they are speaking that I have no disagreements with them till date. Number one. And I've read them many times and thought about it many times with many different hats. Never can I disagree with them.
Okay.
They are not wearing, their language is precise, they are talking the truth. One is Socrates and the other is Fennman.
Other is?
And both of them have Socrates, the Greek philosopher.
Okay.
And the other is Fennman, the Nobel Prize winning physicist. And both of them say the same things. Like, for example, the Socratic method is nothing but asking deeper and deeper questions all the way down until you're talking very fundamental stuff. That's the Socratic method. He says, unless you ask questions, how can you ever know the answers?
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't ask the questions, you don't know the answers. If you ask the questions, you may still not know the answers, but you ask the question. So you are a more successful failure at finding the answer than someone who never asked the question. So repeatedly ask questions and asking deeper and deeper questions until there is nothing to, ask anymore. You understand. That is known as the Socratic method. It's one of many schools of thought, but it is what defined the Greek method. In fact, Socrates' student is Plato himself. Plato's student is Aristotle, the organizer of Greek method of logic and grammar and aesthetics and the scientific method himself. And Aristotle's student is none other than the man who conquered every place in the world and almost conquered India until his troops went back and never regrouped. His plan was to regroup at Baghdad and come back and take India. But he died in a year after that and it never happened. Otherwise, today we may not have been living in planet Earth with so many countries. We may have been living in one city, and that city would be Alexandria. Because that was Alexander the Great's vision, that I will unite the world. I don't want to leave anyone not under my control. And in 33 years to have come all the way from Macedonia till the gates of Yamuna. And then he went back to a place near Baghdad, and there he delivered the famous Opus Mutiny speech, where he, after executing 3 ringleaders of the people who wanted to go back to Greece, he basically told his entire army that, look, my father Philip did a lot for you. Understood. But that is fine in its own right. But that is nothing compared to what I did for you. Okay, today you are big rulers of big places. Most of them I have conquered for you. If you are pointing to me and saying that who am I to say it, no, I have been standing here watch over all of you. No, none of you under my command have died. And he gives a very long, which I feel is one of the very powerful speeches in history. And he says, go back home, go. I will stand here alone in the protection of those people whom you conquered. You go
Yeah.
and claim to the Greeks that you have come and you have left your king behind. Let's see if that wins you honor. Go. And after he gives this speech, no, all the military, they fall to their knees and they re-swear allegiance to Alexander, and they say that no, we will go to the ends of the world with you. But a year after that, he died. Okay, so nobody knows whether it is conspiracy that someone killed him, or he was a self-medicator. His wounds and all, he would had some weird concepts of healing, whether he killed himself by wrong medication or someone poisoned him. No one knows. Nobody knows. But what one knows for a fact is that he planned to rest for 3 months till he was fit and then go back to India. But it took more time. And at about the 6-month mark, he had mentioned that he's not happy with the way he is healing. And then a month or two after that, he dies. And then, it never happens. So Alexander's move all the way to China never happens. Otherwise, that was the plan.
Yeah.
So that is a fork in history. So that is one guy whom I really hold in value. This guy's guru, Socrates.
Yeah.
Right. And the other guy is Richard Feynman, who is also, I think one can take his name in the same breath as Socrates. No harm done. He has his own reason and fan following and many other things. But one of the things he says is, and I believe this, right? And this always, I love it because I really feel that, that year when I moved to Chennai was a special year for me mentally. It's just my mind, it was full of so many questions. And then suddenly, without getting any answer to any of those questions, the questions became thousandfold.
Okay.
And then some of those answers hit bells everywhere, not just answering those small questions. So, it just expanded the way I was absorbing and learning about the world around me.
Yeah.
Because certainly things had more and deeper meaning, because here in Chennai, it means this, there in Bombay, it means this. Here in this language, it means this, there in that language, it is a different thing. So all those kind of bells started going off. And I think that is why, I feel that multilingual people are not twice or thrice, but many million times more agile mentally than monolinguist or monothetical people. So, vary the flavor. Don't do one thing in a day. Do several things in a day. You are a richer person for it. It will keep you younger. It will keep you fresher. It will keep you more curious. That's my method. So yeah, so I think on this, on inquisitiveness, let me quote Fennman at two levels. One where he is explaining what the scientific method is.
Yeah.
But I'll come to that later. But first, when he's explaining what it means to teach or understand or explain something. And he says, unless you know a concept well enough, the best bet you have is teach it to as many people as you can. Until you come across a 6-year-old, I don't remember the exact age he mentions, either a 5 or a 6 or a 7-year-old. Until you come across a 6-year-old and you can explain it to him. And the questions he's asking, you can answer those questions to him.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, you don't even know it. So if you want to know it better, teach it to other people who are easier to teach than 6-year-old kids. Your 6-year-old kid is the litmus test of whether you can. And if you pass that, then I think logically it means that, try with a 5-year-old, then with a 4-year-old, then with a 3-year-old, explaining the scientific method. And I think this is from the original lectures that were captured on video and which form the core of the Feynman lectures in physics, the 3 volumes that were written and compiled by his later students and later colleagues, Leighton, Sands, and I think they collaborated on that. Even after his death, there are reprint editions that are still available. But these are the original lectures at Caltech, the original Feynman lectures on physics at Caltech, which was actually open to not just physics guests, but to everyone. And they weren't really physics. It was just some physics guy talking. And it was not considered a serious thing, but that is now definitively considered to be, one of the best serious textbooks to start physics from scratch and learn it to a very deep level is the Feynman's lectures. So this is from the Feynman lectures where he says that, look, the scientific method is, and this may sound crazy, but you first start with a wild guess. Take a wild guess.
Yeah.
Do you like that guess which you just took? Yeah, you love it. Okay, now hold on. You have to make an experiment to test it in the real world.
Yeah.
Now the experiment happens. Collect the data, look at it carefully. Does it match your guess? No, it doesn't matter how great your guess, how beautiful your guess, who it was that thought about that guess, who you are. You may be Einstein or you may be Feynman. You may be God himself. You may be the great God himself come down on planet universe, boss. But if the data and your guess don't match, you're wrong.
Exactly.
New guess. It matches. Okay, it matches. So is this always true? Test. And wherever the boundaries are to the question that you just defined, just expand that boundary and learning begins.
Yeah.
Unless you ask more questions at the edge of that boundary, you can't expand your worldview. So the moment you lose your curiosity, you're stabilizing. And the moment you keep curiosity alive, you're in expansion mode. That's my way of, looking at curiosity.
Great.
Or what I understood from what Fennman and Socrates are saying, where they're saying that, it's about first being curious, mentally doing the journey wherever it takes you, free of reality. It takes you a very funny place, test. No, not reality. So what is the closest place to that fancy in the real world? Oh, here, that's pretty good too. Not that good, but it's pretty good too. And nobody has done that in real life. That's theoretically possible. In the real world, can I do this? No, but I can do something which is 50% as good as this today. And that is innovation. And innovation coupled with R&D is going to define and move our civilization ahead powerfully. And today, I think technology is so fundamental to our society that if we didn't have, I would be scared if we didn't have a lot more conversations along what we are talking about. Because my complaint, at least, and it's not a personal complaint at all. I've been lucky. I feel that my curiosity just never got ground in the gears of the Indian education system at all. I was like somehow, I managed to find my lubricated way through it all.
Yeah.
It is a personal luck of many sorts.
Getting.
But I think in general, I think the idea is, I don't think it crushes it, but it just slightly, slowly tightens it. Itna mat fellow. By the time you come to 10th and 12th, those are the serious years.
Okay.
Fellow mat. Don't spread at all. This is the 10th syllabus. Do it, be ace in this. That's all. And this is the lie, right? Our parents say. I mean, I don't want to put it that way, but this is the lie our parents say. Beta, bus 10th, then it's all chill. Just 12th, then it's all chill.
Yeah.
It's one of those lies that parents have a right to say, I guess, because after all, they are looking out for you. And I don't think they intended it as a lie. They genuinely think so, but they've been through it themselves and it wasn't the case in theirs. But somehow they expect it is going to be the case in ours, but it isn't. And I guess, however, it's a good behavior mechanism or a coping mechanism at a social level. But long story short, I think because we are resource scarce as a society, not necessarily at an absolute level resource scarce, we are an abundant land. It's just there are so many of us that it appears that resources are less, even though we are very inefficient in extracting resources of India. Resources, are we resource rich? Other things, let's not talk. Let's talk about just food. And we have the most arable land in the world.
Okay.
Really, but we are the 7th largest nation in the world. We have more arable land than Russia. Yes, mostly dry and or alkaline desert. 11% of the world, but less arable land than India. Just barely less. Ukraine alone has almost as much as us, but all of Russia put together barely less than us. So, no, very lucky compared to Russia. But Russia can feed itself. They don't even have anywhere close to our population anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, who else is big? China, no, little less arable land than us. Because they have very fertile land, but that cannot do permanent crops. Because the Yellow River is such a fluctuating river. It's the sorrow of whatever, Huangzi or whatever. It is not like Nile. Nile also floods, but it's predictable floods year after year. This one, Yellow River, is so unpredictable that it kills people more then allows you to plan around that thing. And there is no stability to it. So a lot of arable land in China is unusable for agriculture.
Yeah.
So therefore, how much arable land they have? Not as much as us. America, I think slightly more than us, but they are 3 times our size. And some of their land is not as fertile as our land. So if you put all those smacks together, we're pretty good. But we're also one of only 2 countries which have as much population as us. And as on date, the number 1 agricultural producer in the world is China. Is America, China, India. These are the top 3. But look, India and China being top is no matter of pride. It is a matter of feeding big populations. So America can be proud of its farms ecosystem. They've done a great job and they earn a lot of their money from farm actually. There is no more profitable business than agriculture if you control the trade, and the Americans control the trade. Yeah, but leaving all those discussions aside, coming back to the point, which is now come to India and China, where the Chinese have always been a more organized farming society than us because they have been an undivided land for longer than us. But their productivity and per hectare yields, when it becomes, and it is, I think, twice or thrice us, it's a matter of shame for us. What have we been doing for the last 70 years sometimes? It's just, these are the crimes against our future that our politicians don't even come to. Then they will say, look, farming isn't that important. Let it go from 14 to 11. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Let it. But first you take it from 11 to 23 right now, which it should be. And then that 23, let it go to 5. I don't mind. First grow as much as this land can grow. Let us divide that much. But we are not. We are misutilizing all the resources and the abundance that nature has given us. And we are floating elsewhere because we are not curious enough and we don't realize that that is a more efficient and optimum way of going about building resources for ourselves. But now coming back to where we were, just retracing the brackets and closing brackets. Now that we are a resource scarce society, apparently, with a lot of population, there is now a zero-sum game and a mentality that there is only so much resource to go around. So be competitive and don't help others. Don't show others your weakness.
I think definitely our students will learn a lot about inquisitiveness. Besides, they will learn so much from history, so much from...
I honestly believe that if you're curious, you're fearless.
Exactly.
And if you're not curious, you are actually either afraid or constrained. And you may not be afraid. Yeah, you can be constrained by your fears. Yes, that is okay. That is a choice. But if you are being constrained and you don't know, and you're not sure if you're afraid or not, then when you break this and come out of this viewpoint, this blinker, when it goes away, you will suddenly curse yourself. Why was this blinker on for so many years?
That's the great take from your side. If you are not curious, you are fearless. If you are curious, then you are fearless. Okay. So definitely means so many things that is intriguing my mind, that questioning is a fundamental aspect for anyone, not for students, but for everyone. Okay. So just can you define what you're doing now professionally and how it is helping you precisely, actively?
I'll not go so narrow as to give professional advice to people. No, I'll keep it personal. I'm always reading, so like if you see behind me, I don't know if that's visible, that pile of books.
Yeah.
And you see those books there on the side?
Yeah.
That's another 20-30 books. And I think there are 4-5 here as well.
Visible.
And actually for the last 2 months, I have not read a single new book. These are just old books that I'm rereading. And I don't do it in an organized way. But anyway, suppose I want to just go for some little bit of Max Muller.
What can it teach us? Okay.
And a little bit of why the Vedic systems had such fascination for the Germans after Max Muller's translations. I can just skim through this. Or maybe, if I'm feeling that we need to draw a little inspiration from the Chinese.
Okay.
And their strategic mindset. This is their equivalent, and I feel it's a far better book than Chanakya's Arthashastra. And this is a personal comment. I mean, I don't mean to create any debate. If you feel that Chanakya's Arthashastra is the greatest book ever, sure, you're entitled to it. I have read both books. I feel Sun Tzu goes a little deeper and more fundamental than Chanakya does. Chanakya is still talking about a particular, threat, Alexander, and a particular time. Sun Tzu is just generally saying, whenever it is, whoever the enemy, whatever the force it be, these are certain rules of war. So yes, I think, so like that, I mean, you can learn from everyone. You can learn from the
Getting
Chinese, you can learn from the Pakistanis, you can learn from the Bangladeshis. They've
definitely.
done better in the last 10 years economically than India ever has in the last 10 years or 20. And you can learn from the Sri Lankans, even though they're going through a bad time now. You can learn from everybody. You can learn from the youngest person, wisdom of the ages, and from the oldest person, you can learn the stupidity of the incompetent and, imbecile kids. From the oldest person can happen. The wisest man can say the stupidest thing, and the stupidest man can say the wisest thing.
Wow.
It's just not required at all to very structuredly expect at particular places wisdom to occur.
Yeah.
And there is no regimented route to wisdom. Therefore, curiosity becomes not a power or a necessity, but a superpower and a super necessity if you want to, expand yourself, if you want to grow. That's my sign off.
Great. So we will definitely, that point is really, it means itna powerful hai ki curiosity matters more. Okay. So how can we implement, how can we culture curiosity inside the classroom, inside the academic years?
See, this is a tough one for me to answer specifically because, see, when I came back to India for about 6 years, I was actually teaching students.
Okay.
But since then, last 6 years, I have not been in a direct student facing role. So yeah, sure, I'm in higher education still very actively. And so students do come and ask, what's a good career option? Hey, I got into this company. Should I take it up? Those kind of questions. And you do discuss those things with them. But I'm not really observing how the gears are aligning, right? In a classroom, if I say, hey, do you know that this policy by Modi has these implications? I don't know how that is being received. Is it received with, wow, Modi ji is great, he did this always? That's a problem. Is it received with, Modi, he does this all the time? That's a problem.
Yeah.
But if it says, I love Modi, but he's wrong here, that's great.
Yeah.
Or if it says, Modi is an absolute nonsense person, but respect for him, he did this.
Yeah.
These are the gray shades that are so vibrantly pleasant in our society when we interact with people. I really think that classrooms should not have structure, or there should be definite moments of disruption of structure. Yeah. Suppose you have a class which wants to go from point A to point B to point C to point D, and that's the plan. Deliver point A, talk point E briefly.
Okay.
Then give some unstructured time. Are you feeling that A and E are different, same, good if both happen, good if one happens? Okay, then deliver B. Now have them discuss, okay, so B, E and A, is it Abe or is it Bea or is it Abe? Let's discuss.
Yeah.
Then deliver C and then ask them, what is it now in your head? Then deliver D, then deliver E, and don't let A, B, C and D come from the same school of thought.
Yeah. That's really nice take.
That I feel, and this is still structure. Yeah. I feel that there should be definite moments of lack of structure. I love to open my classroom with just a song. Or I love to ask people in the first 5-10 minutes, those who come late, in just, general banter, why are you late? Aren't you serious about the... That takes and robs some time, but it adds that little bit of unstructuredness that is actually loosening up and freshening up everyone's mind. It's like coffee. It's like stimulant. Yeah. Now the conversation is relevant to that classroom. And once in a while, if you can bring the classroom into it, like, someone misses something and you'll be like, yeah, you were so late, you didn't catch a cup of coffee, you're not fresh. Yeah. It's a wake-up call to everyone who's not fresh because they didn't catch it too. And I think that is, if a good facilitator should be able to throw in a little bit of unstructured time somewhere in the middle, beginning and the end, where you're not imparting any knowledge to the student, but you're actually holding back and asking them to, reflect and use that a little bit. So that way, that is totally missing in our country. This is one of the things that our education system has lost a little bit of, but enough to be noticeable compared to other countries. Yes. We don't rank in the best education systems in our schools because of this. You can deliver a curriculum and a particular level of skills, but how deep is that skill and how real is that skill if you don't test it, then it doesn't have any value. And literacy in India, they've kept upping the bar on everything else. But literacy is, instead of this, if you can write your name, you're literate. We never changed that definition. So whenever anyone tells me we're 80%, 90% literate, I don't think there's anything for India to be proud of.
Yeah.
Please spare me that we have become more literate than in the past. I do not agree. I feel that in a world where so much information is hitting us, the least we can do is redefine our bar for literacy from reading, writing, and arithmetic to reading, writing, arithmetic, and algorithmic thinking and or automation using capabilities. Because if you are unable to use technology and automation in today's world, you are going to be living in the caves and or in trees eating bananas, because you are like a monkey was to last century society in today's world.
Exactly.
So it's so critical that we redefine what literacy means for our society going forward. And everyone in India has to be 100% literate at that base level. Until that day arrives, I think, we can never be comfortable that we are on the right path. So how to spark curiosity? I don't know. I feel a little bit of unstructured time in every classroom. That's great.
One thing is very clear, Arkaji, ki unstructured curriculum, unstructured classroom style is really matters for generating some kind of curiosity inside the classroom.
Okay. I see. I am not suggesting that lose all structure in classroom. That would be a crime. Then it's very difficult to. Then it becomes very chaotic. But a little bit of unstructured time and
recommended.
Yes, I would recommend a little bit of unstructured time. Always recommended. It breaks the monotony, gives a little bit of fresh perspective, and sometimes those are the very key takeaways from a classroom where everything is normal, not memorable.
I agree with that. Okay, because that suggestion is really important for our teachers to understand. Okay, because unstructured style में क्या होता है?
So disclaimer: this is my viewpoint. There's no research, and there are a lot of research and books that suggest these things, but I'm not quoting anyone specific. I'm just coming from a place where, having read everyone, my own personal view is that this helps. It always helps a little bit.
Exactly. And that's what the theory suggests, that if we give the proper space to students to think,
right,
do something, okay, so that they can generate their curiosity. Fine. And one quote that I have collected, that he said ki you don't need to be a bike rider, you need to be a hiker. You have to see you have to see and there, okay, so that you can jot everything. That's the great take for that. So Arkaji, what do you think about?
That's brilliant. Awesome.
Yeah. So what do you think about how students are unable to generate inquisitiveness in their studenthood? What do you think? What are the
I feel that, look, again, we are trying to direct students' learning in some ways as educators. We have to be very cautious about this bad habit that over decades, now for me, it's been now a decade completely in higher education, close to a decade and a half in allied. And the previous 20 years were in education as a recipient. So, I have, barring 5-6 years in industry, I can say 40, 35, 36 years of experience with education. First as a student, then on the other side. And we have some bad habits. Then the most important bad habit is we're trying to get students to learn, to know enough, to be ready for something. Don't step back.
Yeah.
Step back a little bit and let them. They don't need us to teach them. They need us to probably impart the language skills, the logical skills, the ability to read, the interest to read, the interest to find out and explore, that exploratory values. These three things let's impart in them, and the problem solving ability that comes from trial and error, if we can equip them with. I really think beyond that, any learning is actually going to be a journey together with the teacher and the student. Those are personal conversations and moments of double discovery. I don't recall a single great conversation I've had with a student where I was quoting something very basic.
Okay.
In fact, I remember many occasions where students have come and asked me a question and I said, get out. And he looks up at me, he realizes that the question was stupid and walks out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when a student comes to me with a question, and I look and I look at him and I say, come and sit down. It's an indicator, and this is just my personal. It makes me stop my day and think about the question asked. So I'll put aside my work for a few minutes, and I'll just recognize that this question was important, and that I don't have the answer now, or I do have the answer and this is it. And usually that is a very fascinating moment of discovery for the student, because usually that question is what I've been waiting for in the session and I haven't had.
Yeah.
And when it comes after session, I will just sit them down and say, I was waiting for this question. And then I will not give them the answer, but I'll just point them to, why don't you convince yourself what the answer is and come and discuss with me.
Yeah.
So, that is just that little bit of teaser. Just hold on. Suppose I ask you your name and you just tell me it's Santanu. You lost a moment of mystery. But if I ask you your name and you say, my name is the same as the guy who started off the dynasty after whom this country is named. Suppose someone asks you your name, Shantanu, and you say, my name is Shantanu. Then if I am able to connect the name Shantanu from my own ability and awareness, then that's a recognized name, and it'll be like, okay, hi Shantanu. Yeah. But otherwise, usually the response to your name is what? Shantanu. What does that mean? You may never have experienced that, because Shantanu is such a regal name that in India, nobody will question Shantanu. But I've faced it. My name is Arka. Arka, what does that mean? So I never answer the question, what is your name, with Arka.
Okay.
I usually say that, it is true. I observed this. I remember these 3-4 things that I've said over the years. At first, I used to say Arka, but then that would ring no bells to Maharashtrians. Some of them will be like, oh, like the plant. No, there is a Ayurvedic bitter herb called Arka. In Marathi, it also means to extract or the core of something.
Yeah.
And in Sanskrit, it means the sun.
Arka
which is where from in Konark, that core of the arc, the ray of the sun is being referenced, and Arka is one of the Sahasranams of the sun. So over a period of time, I will, like for example, a little later when a lot of Bengali people would ask me my name, I would say my name is Arka. Oh, Orko. I would say na, Amar naam Arka, because I am born and brought up in Bombay. I answer to Arka. I don't answer to Orko. Orko is, yes, it's a common name in Bengal, but I have had to establish my identity as Arka here, and I will not submit that. I'm not Bengali. I'm Arka from Bombay. I know Bengali, but I'm not a Bengali. I'm a Pravashi Bengali. Whatever. I'm Arka. You may be Bengali, and it may make your inners feel wrong to call me by the way I like my name called, but I'm Arka and not Orko. Bhattacharya and not Bhattacharya. I am who I am. And in that same way, I feel that, when you are asking a question to someone, don't give them the answer at the same time. That kills curiosity. Wow. Ask the question, wait for their answer. Then ask another question, wait for their next answer.
Wow.
Build a few set of questions.
That should be
all the answers. If they give all the answers, then you are not teaching them anything. They figured it out on their own. So ask them a question that expands their world view. Otherwise, you're asking the wrong questions. And as an educator, our level of being able to, and this is where I feel that, the entire excitement around Edtech and education going online, to me, is a joke. And the news in the recent times is all of these Edtech guys who have gone and become billion-dollar unicorns are now coming back and setting up physical online classrooms. Vedantu is doing it. Byju's is doing it. I don't know of two bigger names than that. So everyone will do it. Unacademy will do it. Upskill, Upgrad will do it. Great Learning will do it. Everyone will do it. Watch, this is going to happen, because when it comes to the core of education, education is not a mass delivered device, product, or an offering. It is an ultra customized individual one-on-one offering.
Wow.
And anything that does not deliver that is a failed mode of trying to deliver education. So yes, online education is a great hit if your faculty at Byju's and my student at my house are actually going to have a meaningful one-on-one conversation.
Nice. Nice.
or some structured interaction which adds value to my student. And usually such an interaction alone will add value to that instructor as well. And this is the reason why I've been in the training industry. I can tell you the training industry has very good deliverers, and the curriculum is so ace that they are great at delivering it, and they're some of the best teachers I know. But because they're delivering the same thing and the vibration is more on test taking rather than the fundamentals, the interaction becomes a little bit one-sided, with the student gaining more than the faculty gains. And which is why after 4 or 5 years of doing it, you lose that magic or that mystery about what it is. Because in the first 4 or 5 years, even though they are gaining more than you are gaining enough from 3, 4, 5, 10. You're just going over some covered ground. They are fairly motivated students. I'm particularly talking about test prep. Like I used to do CAT training. So when you're training CAT, people from different backgrounds giving the CAT and other entrance preps, they are very motivated. They want to get 95, 99. They want to know how to get into IMA. To them, you're not teaching the basics. You're teaching them test taking strategy and all that. And as you're teaching them, you're also learning. So after 2, 3 years of teaching them, my own ability to take tests had gone to a very high level. I have taught them some of the techniques that in the process of teaching them, I have internalized myself for the first time, right? So that's how it's a two-way play. But at the time when the teacher is no longer learning from his students, will step up a student who will surpass the teacher, and it's time for the teacher to back away. Either teach something else or find better students or call it a day. Until and unless the teacher is learning from the student, it is not a true learning environment. And if it is not a true learning environment, the ossification will happen at some stage, after which, if it structurizes, that's what you have in 5, 6 decades of, slipping away from the top of the curve to where we are today. And I just hope that the new education policy, shakes the machinery a little bit of the dust, the grime, the grease and all shakes loose. And then let's just spray it with water, put a little lubricant and pray to God. Because I think, we are such a large country that if we don't stop where we are right now, group together and start running fast, we are going to fall very behind. If we go through something like Sri Lanka went a few months ago, we won't recover as fast as the Sri Lankans are. A few months after that incident, they are back on the road to recovery. For us, that national lockdown, it is now 3 years later, we are just coming back from that. For us, demonetization happens 2016, we are just coming back from that, and if you go back, for us, something like this 2010 2G scandal, it is just wrapping up after about 11, 12 years. Hopefully there isn't another big scam, but something is in the papers today. See, such jolts keep coming every 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, some jolt is coming. So it will keep coming. But are we solid enough at some stage to take these 12-year, 20-year, 30-year jolts like it doesn't matter to us as a country? We are not that solid. And the core is curious, well-trained, inquisitive, sharp, alert minds. And that's very fundamental to our destiny as a country. I won't relate everything to education and curiosity. That's too much. But I feel it's my core value. It's the value I uphold the highest. And I told you that I value it more than bravery, in fact. I relate them very similarly, but I value curiosity even more than bravery. Because, it is like that. Sometimes you're willing to lose. When it comes to curiosity, you're willing to lose. And in bravery, you can't lose. You're willing to die and be wrong rather than, be right and lose. So I value curiosity that little bit more than bravery as well. So it's a...
So the name and your way of approaching is really matched because something is...
Another Fennman quote, quickly. If you know what the name of something is, you don't know what that thing is.
Exactly.
So if I tell you what's a laser and you tell me it's light amplified by stimulated emission of radiation, you know the full form of the acronym laser. Do you know what a laser is?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, it's a rubidium crystal. It pulses, there's back and forth, there's a 45-degree mirror and 90 at another. It goes back and it gets in phase, then it reaches a particular peak thing. There is a threshold and then it starts emitting. Okay, why rubidium? Because of blah, 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 blah. Okay, but why 42 rubidium?
Yeah.
Why not 44, the radioactive one? Because it's dangerous, blah, blah, blah. Okay, why not some other crystal? Why rubidium specifically? Yeah, you use krypton, argon also. Okay, why krypton, argon? Why not any of the non-inert gases?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. Then ultimately you'll reach at very fundamental levels, which is where Feynman actually reached, and he invented something called QCD, or quantum chromodynamics. So I think he is also applying the Socratic method effectively.
Nice. Arkaji, means there is so much of things that we are going to learn, and hopefully our students will learn a lot about from history, from physics, from everything. Everything is mixed up with the discussion. So that's a really insightful discussion, hopefully. So lastly, but
Thank
not
you.
at least, Arkaji, what do you think? What are your personal suggestion for the students? Okay, to build a habit of inquisitiveness, to build a habit of asking questions.
I would say
Just,
nothing
just,
better to
just
build
suggest.
thinking and
Just,
curiosity, yeah, than to write what you have read.
okay.
If I am to bring it down to a discipline, the discipline is a two-word exercise called reading comprehension. You don't necessarily need a pen and paper to do it. Read something, write it down in your head, in your mind. Read something, remember it in your head. Read something, write it down physically on pen and paper. I mean, I value it. I do take notes when I'm reading. But I would say this is and the writing is very important, because when you're reading, you're thinking. When you're thinking, you're naturally branching. It doesn't cost you anything. Suppose I want to imagine one banana and I'd like it. It costs me nothing to imagine I want 5 bananas and I like that as well.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking, you're floating around, a lot of, free resources are available in your mind. But when you're writing, you're bringing some of those real ones here. I'll write down, I want either 1 or 5, maybe up to 6 bananas. But I was not seriously considering, but I thought it would be good if I had an entire, factory full of bananas that I could take one from, but I not writing that down. So that's what I would say is, and that becomes active reading. So think about what you're reading as you're reading it, but separate what your thoughts are from what is being said. That discipline is very useful to extract the real meaning of what you're reading and check if you agree or disagree with that.
Exactly.
Don't always agree with it, don't always disagree with it, but take it as it comes on its merits, because you know a lot. Yeah, sure, but don't confuse what you know for what's being said.
Yeah. Great.
So that's an important two-way connect that will make you a more disciplined reader. And writing actually checks how disciplined your thought process is. And, how can you switch from thought to reality and reality to thought is important. It's important to break out of reality sometimes to solve problems.
Yeah.
They call it out of the box thinking. So yeah, that's my advice.
Exactly. So Arkaji, I think there are 4 kind of students in any classroom. Okay, if we just categorize them with respect to inquisitiveness, some students are there who don't care anything. They just sit inside the classroom. They just enjoy the time. Okay, with their own mindset, with their own worldview. Okay, so
that category was me, by the way. I'll be very honest with you.
Okay,
that was my category. So I have huge respect for that category.
No. Means
they're my favorite category of students. But anyway, yes.
There is no disrespect. Okay,
I am sure.
I am telling
there is this
one category. One subset is there. Okay.
Yes.
Another subset is there who cares but don't ask. They perform well in the exam, but they are not performing well inside the classroom. They are not participating actively. Okay. Right. So for this both subset, okay, do we need to culture the art of questioning, art of asking more?
I think I'll again say that, for these two categories, it's not them that we need to address differently. It's us that we need to address differently. It's our job to not force them to do what they don't want to do at that young age.
Yeah.
That is the hard edge of our education system that needs to go away. So, for example, if you take the Indian education system, it's less of an education system and more of a classification or a gradation system.
Yeah.
If you enter into standard 8th, my job in 8th is not to teach you something. My job is to use something that I'm teaching as a tool to say you are first and you are last at the end of a year.
Wow.
And how wrong is that? It is ridiculously wrong, because if you can guarantee me that the first 5 in the class 8 are going to become president, Nobel Prize winner, Bharatnatyam dancer, sportsman who breaks 100-meter record, and astronaut. And the last 5 will become some things that nobody will remember. If you can guarantee me that, then I will hold any value to this process of gradation. Otherwise, it is just one gradation. There are so many ways in which you are measured. Someone checks your height every morning in school and then decides in which order you go to the assembly. There are no surprises. There are no surprises. Every day is the same. But same type of measurement is this also. This only once in a year you're doing it and then using it as some sort of pecking order to say that he will get into good colleges, he will get into bad colleges, she will get into this field, she will get into that field. It is so wrong because it's wrong. That's all I have to say, except that, that's not how it should be. That's all. So I would say that it's actually incumbent on not the students, and there's no advice to students. Advice to students is stay curious. Advice to teachers is be a little bit more forgiving of their curiosity. Be a little bit enthusiastic about it. It'll add value to you. It will add value to you. And sometimes, I think teachers need some amount of unstructured interaction with student also. It's required. Refresh yourself also. And first thing is, don't imagine that any interaction is always of teacher and student. Teacher and student is when you're delivering what you're sure of. At all other times, it is co-explorator of the truth. That is how Socrates mentioned it. At many times, it may be, hey, friend who first brought to my notice something interesting that I never heard of before. So Socrates is the teacher, but not always. Sometimes he is the student as well. Sometimes he's the friend who just discovered something moments before you. Sometimes he's the slow friend who just slowly is accepting what you just realized a few minutes ago, and so on and so forth. That's the power of the Socratic method. There is no power invested in authority, only in, at the end of a logically constructed, rational discussion, what is undisputable, everyone agrees. What is debatable, people are free to take to any imaginary end they want, and they can become enemies over that disputable zone of thought process, or they can be the best of friends, but they may be considered, dreamers or idiots or vagrants away from reality. That is their choice. But they can be great friends over something imaginary, or they can fight over something imaginary. Over real things, people should not fight, because real things are real things. If suddenly, Santanu, you get very upset that I am saying that internet is choppy today and want to send a supari in my name, it is your privilege. But it's a reality. It's a reality. We have to live with the fact that internet was a bit choppy today. And there's no point us getting upset with each other over something like what we both agree is a problem. So that, I feel, is the power of the Socratic method in many ways, and of curiosity. I mean, let's accept it. Yeah, I'm bad at maths. Can you sing like me? Let's accept it. I can't dance for Adam. I'm Pappu. I can't dance. But can you draw as well as me? Let's accept it. I'm no good at PT. That is everyone in India. But we never do that only in our school. So why are you expecting? Why every year? Why is everyone so wanting India to get Olympic medals? You first encourage sports a little bit first at the basic level and at school levels. Then you should dream of Olympic medals. Otherwise, it's like, you're like that. There is that Nasruddin Hodja story, he's making khichdi by putting a big cauldron on the ceiling, hanging it from the ceiling. And there's a small candle, which is 1 feet below that. And it's breezy day. And Akbar is like, "Arey, this khichdi will take a long time. Times are tough. This is how big a candle I have. So khichdi will be ready very soon. It is cooking at full peak of my maximum capabilities. Expect khichdi very soon in the next 1 year or two." Akbar is like, "Take all the wood in my thing and just get me khichdi in some time." And so, sometimes when you say the reality, it opens up instead of fissures. I mean, Akbar could have chopped off, I'm mixing Huja and Birbal or whatever it is, but let's say it was Birbal. Akbar could have chopped off Birbal's head for this slight and this thing. But he enjoyed it instead and learned a lesson. So that's how it works.
Nice.
Sometimes
actually,
you just need to call out the truth.
Actually, means so many things are there that is we need to learn from you. Okay, so many things are there. Okay, so we have to end the discussion. Okay, we have to complete the
I
episode.
agree.
So,
I absolutely thank you. Yeah.
what is the only thing that you can recommend to student? You can suggest to student to stay open, to stay curious throughout their life, especially from
So
the
I'll give 3 pointed and very specific advice.
sure.
Read a lot. Find time to read.
Hmm.
Write at least a little.
Hmm.
Yeah, read a lot. Write at least a little. And these are number 2 and 3 actually. Read a lot and write at least a little. The first one is, unless you read something 3 times, you've not read it.
Okay. Okay.
That's it. That's all I'll say.
Nice.
That's my
Nice.
total advice.
Nice tip. Nice tip. So, Arkaji, hopefully this episode will help our students a lot, really a lot to learn the various things connected. Okay, they can connect various dots. Okay, from various perspectives. Okay.
I'll again end it by saying that, the theme that I'm trying to convey is forget about connecting dots. Just forget it.
Okay.
When you are looking at a lion's breath and he's breathing in your face, you will connect all the dots needed to escape from there. Question is, have you collected the dots? Not can you connect the dots. We can all connect the dots. If we don't have the dots in our toolkit, that's when we struggle. And that is what curiosity is all about. A curious person has more dots in his bag than a non-curious person.
Yeah.
That non-curious person may be an expert in plunging a sword inside a lion's throat. The only guy who can do it no better than others. But now it is close quarters and the sword doesn't help. And he's going to do nothing but be a nice, enjoyable meal for the lion as he goes for the jugular of this trained lion killer. Why? Because he didn't collect enough dots.
Wow.
He didn't collect enough dots. So that's my sign-off statement.
Nice.
So I hope the students collect more dots. That's all. That will keep them curious, and that's all they need.
Collecting dots is more important than connecting dots in some way.
Both are important. I think the connection makes something happen, but the collection is fun also. And then, then the connection you're not worried about. The connections will happen. Sometimes the connections doesn't happen. Despite all the toolkits, sometimes the connections don't happen. That's okay. Then, you'll have a good aha moment that, I was such an idiot that day. I didn't connect this dot.
So
it happens,
so many things actually make me one kind of curious about you, about your thought process and so many things. So definitely we will meet in the next episodes for some other aspects.
Thank you so much. It was great fun. Nobody would imagine that, this was really fun, because I don't think that I have spoken about these things to anyone, Santanu. I really must hand it to you. You've opened conversations that I don't think I've had with anyone except some very, very close personal friends. So hats off to you. I think you just went very deep into where I was. Yeah, thanks for that. It was good fun.
So really nice, Arkaji, and thank you so much for your insightful discussion about everything, but playing around the inquisitiveness. Okay, so that's great, and we will meet very soon about the next episodes. Okay, for discussing something relevant. So
look forward to it.
Thank you.
And all power to you, Santanu. Love some of the interviews I've caught before this, and thrilled to be part of this interaction, and wish you many hundreds and thousands more of such episodes, and make an impact. So all wish you all power.